You're listening to the Racking Roundtable podcast, episode number 73. I'm your host, David Oria. I'm here with my co-host,
Chris Sagana, and our guest today was Michael Domine, aka Arkuya Mikey. He is actually a news designer over at the Washington Post. Huge move. Made the decision to move his family out to the East Coast. He's been here in San Diego, California for a bit, but he goes through him making the decision, of this opportunity that kind of came to him, and the breakdown of how he discusses with his family and just self-reflection. What do you think, David?
Yeah, man, it's just a huge episode just about the mentality of approaching change, and the goods and the bad. So I think it's super insightful. Hope you guys enjoy it. So we have to Chris and I, a really special guest today on the podcast, and this is someone that we call Kuya. We look up to. He's an older brother figure to us, and he's been doing some amazing things. And we don't want to, at least for me, I want you to tell the story, right? Like, so kind of just introduce yourself to the listeners, people in the interwebs right now, and give them a little bit of an abridged version of who you are, where you're from, where you're at, and kind of what you do, and kind of how you got there.
That's Michael Domine. It's so weird, but it's good. It's a good weird. But I do like how personal this is going to be, right? And okay, I'm Michael Domine. I'm originally from Oceanside, California. Well, I say I grew up in Oceanside, California, but I was born in the Philippines. And I am currently living in Arlington, Virginia, or the DMV, but I do work at the Washington Post at the main office in Washington, D.C. And I go to DC probably 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And it's been amazing change, whole lot of good experiences all around.
That's awesome. Let's go back, I guess, from the beginning, if that's okay. So starting off in Oceanside, California, or even if you want to start with your college background and just leading up on what you studied.
Yeah, if I want to be honest, let me start off with this. I was also, prior to this, I was a college professor at Palomar College. I taught photojournalism and advanced photojournalism to, ranging from 19-year-olds to 45 retired. I'm going to treat this podcast like I'm in class again, if that's okay. But this is the credentials part. This is the part where the audience buys into my, my right. If I'm trying, this is my professional face now. If you couldn't tell, but to start off, like for college part, I taught there in Palomar College, and hope like the people who are in North San Diego knows what Palomar College is. And that's where I kind of started with college. I was in, my brothers were at Palomar College. We visited a lot of friends. And then I graduated from El Camino, but decided to go to Maricosta for a few years to stay close to family and kind of save money and a whole lot of different reasons. But I ended up going to California State University, Fullerton, or a lot of people call it Cal State Disney. I don't know if you've heard that, but hot take. A lot of creatives, graduates from the communications department ended up working for Disney. I don't know if you're familiar with the Angels. You can fact check me on this, but the Rally Monkey was from a Cal State Fullerton graduate. So a lot of Cal State Fullerton.
Wow.
Yep. But that's where I graduated in communications. But yeah, graduated there back, oh my goodness, almost 20 years ago.
Nice. Hey, that's a milestone. But okay,
Is
so
it?
no, it's just you got some experience. You got some experience on your belt. I think just the fact that you're saying like you taught or you're a professor at a college, like that's an accomplishment. I think this is part where maybe the more personal side. I understand the credentials, but a lot of people, they say college professor, then they stop there. Why didn't you? What made you go beyond that?
That's a good question. I wrestle with, like, I tell this story to random people, believe it or not, but it's like why did I move cross country? When I tell people, or like random people at the streets or at the playground when we were playing with the kids, it's like, oh yeah, we came from San Diego, but we didn't sell our house there. And then I tell this joke that I was prepared to die in Temecula, right, in Marietta area. I thought I had, like, San Diego Union-Tribune, great company. I totally endorse what they do. And they're also part of the LA Times. They're the same company. So long-winded explanation is, I thought when I was at the Union-Tribune, I thought I could do better. I was like, this can't be it for me, and then okay, I'll go into this too. I applied to be a reservist for public affairs officer for the Navy. And yeah, I got appraised and everything from a commander. I saved it, but I saved it, but I didn't get around the first round. But from what I understand, that hurt my feelings, by the way. But no, but it was and how I took it was, God said, "Oh, this isn't for you." That's when I got literally following year, I got the professor job. There was an opening. I said, I thought it was a long shot, but once they saw my resume and kind of the community is small, like journalism community, photojournalism community, it's pretty small, especially San Diego. And they I just went through a few interviews, and they kind of they said, okay, we need to hire you, verbatim. Sorry, I don't know if that's a flex or not, but it was but it was very quick. I was surprised that that I got the job, and I did it for 3 years. And I'm actually at that rate my professor, and I was like, oh, this has to be it. Just to answer your question.
Yeah.
What was that the end? I kind of was like, I was okay with it if it was. And I believe in, I'm just going to do my best at what I do, and wherever takes me, I'm down for it. And I can't be afraid, I was afraid for this jump. It's a huge jump from West Coast to East Coast. And the competition for Washington Post is huge. So did that answer your question? Long-winded answer, but did I answer your question?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of the different questions have popped in my head from just that explanation there. But did you say you applied to be in the Navy?
Yeah.
Whoa, I did not know that. Like, I guess I just feel like it's kind of a pivot from what you're kind of doing and pursuing. What was the thought process behind that, I think?
How can I explain this? When I was in college, I've always intrigued with, my first job. My major was communications, so we got a lot of public affairs students from Navy, from Air Force, especially in that area in Orange County. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And I thought I was going to be good at it, but I'm not very good at speaking. So I said, let's go a different route, but it was from 2003 till maybe, the next 10 years, I was thinking about it, but I went about it the wrong way. My logic was, if I don't get a good job, I'm going to apply at the Navy.
Oh,
it should have been like, if that was a dream, if that was a destination, I should have thought about it the other way, where I said, oh, I should do it, rather than if then, right?
Kind of like a safety net, I guess.
Yeah, it's not that position is not a safety net position, and I treated it like that, and that's why I believe, it's like, but that's kind of like my personality too. I don't regret anything. If I were to get that position, I would have been like, it would have been interesting. I think it would have been better. This route, anyways. I'm gonna go off on another tangent here. Like the past 10 years have been like, both of you know I have kids. I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son, and I've been focused on being a dad. And prior to this, I don't know if I'm jumping from your segments, but before the Union-Tribune, I was at the San Diego Business Journal, and I ended up being a manager. I was an art director, manager, and I was managing other creatives, and like some of the newsrooms, smaller, but it's still. And I was too young to like focus on that, and I wanted to, the 14-hour days, 15-hour days. I didn't want to do that while I have kids anymore, at least.
Yeah, that's huge. I think when life happens, or I mean, for good or for bad, right? Like I think having kids is that's awesome. Like that's a big, like, life moment. I think a lot of times priorities change, and so you kind of that shifts also, with the change of the winds, I guess, of life. And how did that kind of affect your decision making, deciding to make this jump? You talked a little bit about the competition steep, and the jump is not small. Take us through that kind of thought process when you were making that decision, taking into account, your family. And I know, you mentioned like your brothers, or your family, back in San Diego, right? Like that's like your roots.
Oh yeah.
Take us through that decision also, right? Because like you have maybe, you're thinking of your kids, but then you're also thinking of like your immediate family. Like take us through that.
Yeah, and I have a huge family, and understatement understatement of the year.
This is facts.
But they're everywhere, and I thought it was sorry, like this is how to answer that same question.
Yeah.
Like when people say, oh, do you miss San Diego? It's like, not, I do, but I don't, but my mind doesn't go there. But it's like just family. It's always about family, right? Both sides, my in-laws and my family. And of course, but they understand what I'm trying to do. And I look at it as if, my parents, they came from the Philippines. I was like, like 1989. They were coming here. And I remember asking my mom, talking to my parents about this. And it's like, coming from the Philippines to here, was that a clear-cut decision that's going to benefit the family? Right? So I asked that for myself. Like, so, and again, this is not this is self-reflection when you're like saying, okay, I have good family here. I have a good job. I have two good jobs. I have I have a property that's like that was our dream. We have good property there we haven't sold. And was that going to the Washington Post, moving into an apartment, is that a good clear-cut decision to say it's going to be better for your life? And on top of it, right, that's the material side of it. The family part of it, it's like, oh man, they're going to hate me. No, but it's like, but when I did tell them, like everybody was supportive. Like brothers, my sisters were like, you have to take it if I do get it. It was a long process. Wow. And it was it was a long process, probably a couple months, for multiple reasons. But it was it was a lot of self-reflection that was unnecessary, because like it made me rethink, it made me rethink. And it always came back to my family. Parents are getting older, but again, like actually all of us, like if our family, like my parents are in Oceanside, and my sister, and I have a brother in the Philippines, I have a brother in Vegas, and then I have extended family in Texas. And and it's like, okay, this is the time. I'm the youngest, and I said, this is my time. And it's and then another thing that I put in perspective was I spoke to my mom and my dad. I said, the calculations were different. I don't know if I'm trying to recall it, but when they moved from the Philippines to here, they were around my age. So, it's like, it's like the whole cycle, but it kept on going back to that same question. Is it going to be better for your life? Like, is this a clear-cut decision that's going to be better for your life? Philippines to here, is that clear-cut decision, right?
Wow.
To you, is it a clear-cut decision? Yes, to me it was, right? Better opportunities and things like that. But from San Diego to, like, Washington Post counterpart, San Diego Union-Tribune, and teaching a college job, a professor job, and that's it was pretty solid. It was like, and had a good property that we loved, and we were building for our kids, like they loved it, to an apartment, to reiterate, right? Is that a clear-cut decision? And then on top of it, family, like, what would you do, right? But that was my thought process.
Wow.
Wow.
I think you're selling this apartment a little short. You just said that you can walk to Costco. So that's, I mean,
bro, I'm telling you, this morning I have a wagon where I have a wagon that I take the kids for adventures. Now, like, I said, I'm gonna go to Costco real quick for 10 minutes. Like, and it's possible. Like, and I make fun of Janice all the time. Or like, we said, like, oh, let's just drive to Costco. I'm like, okay, let's go. And then when I go to the parking lot, we can see our apartment. I'm like, bro,
just walk.
But she gets it. She's funny.
Oh,
but yeah, but to put things in perspective, and like, fast forward, we're here, and clear-cut decision, reflection, the reflection part, and it's like, I had to do this for the next chapter, right? So if like, now I'm at the Post, I'm like, are you done? I'm like, this can't be it, like, I don't know, but maybe that's me. I don't know. I might get fired next week, you never know.
I'm glad you explained that, and you explained to that detail, because you did exactly what we kind of encourage everybody to do. If you run into a change in your life or decision, is that pro and con list, comparing both situations, both decisions you're about to make. And I think my question for you is, so when you're having these two great jobs here in San Diego, Union-Tribune, as well as being a professor at Palomar, you start getting an itch. You're like, is this it? Like, can you describe what that itch is? Like, when you're questioning, is this it for me? What is that? Is it a voice in your head, or is it like you're just feeling kind of stagnant? What is that feeling when you're like, is it it? What is that?
I don't know. Like, it's kind of like, even here now. I was okay. Let me frame this in a like, what happened, like, literally, like, 2 days ago. I had a brainstorm about a possible, like, story, like, enterprise story, which goes all across platform at the Post, at the Washington Post. I was talking to, like, graphics and a whole lot of the other departments, right? And then I said, oh, I have this feeling. It's like, oh man, I'm not doing enough. I'm supposed to be here making an impact. And then I talked to like the designers, illustrators, specifically, like, illustrators. They brought up this imposter syndrome. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I don't know if I have it or not. I don't know if I don't have if I have it or not. But it's like, it's like, man, it just feels like I could do better, to put things in perspective. But it's like, this can't be it. It's kind of like, both how much I love sports. It's like, I've always treated things like that, where I kind of just go fast, stop, and recalculate, stop, go fast, recalculate. Each play, you kind of recalculate, recalibrate. And once I get to that point where, like, I think when I turned 40, I told Janice, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm 40. What have I done with my life? But that, it goes kind of both ways, where it's like, it's like, I should be happy, right? I should be happy, but at the same time, it's like, if this is a gift, if this is whatever's gift is presented to me, like, I want to do my best, even though it's like, it might not look like I'm doing my best, but I don't know. It's hard to explain. But the itch is just, honestly, to provide for my family, provide for my family, this job is a job. The end goal of it is to provide for my family, and I've always explained that to my superiors, my creative directors. This is to support my family and where I want to take them. And at the Union-Tribune and the other job, those were both kind of like trying to figure out that itch. And are you happy? I am happy, but at the same time, it's like, why not? If you've already scored 20 points in a game, why not go for 85? But I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm like smiling here because like I have like so many questions for you, like just off of like what you just said. And actually, I'm gonna ask a question off of, like what you said before that question, because like, dude, there's so many ways that I just want to like go, but one thing that no, your take on things, and maybe not take, because I think a lot of people maybe have a similar mindset, but like what you're saying about it, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, like it hasn't really been said on this platform, and this is kind of why I say that, because just like you mentioned, Chris, right, like we talk a lot about, if you have an itch to like go and make a decision that will change the course or the trajectory of your future, why not do it, right? If it's gonna change it positively, right? And I think the three of us would all agree that maybe one time or multiple times in our life, like we've actually experienced that and maybe made a decision to actually pursue that. But the unique thing about maybe what you said maybe like 7 minutes ago was that you felt this fear of hatred from your family. And I think, and I think, and I don't know if again, that may just be like a blanket statement for something, but why I want to say that is because you've highlighted also like the negative parts of making that decision. Because Chris and I always talk about the positives. We're like, oh my gosh, it could be amazing. But sometimes those feelings sometimes hold us back.
Oh, yeah.
And they sometimes prevent us from making that decision. But you didn't let any negative things prevent you, because you decided,
I don't want to frame it that way.
I don't think you meant to, but I'm just linking it back to maybe like the feeling that maybe you
it's not really, I don't think it was really them. It was my like built up in my head.
It's not
necessarily them,
exactly.
Like, they were, what I had explained it to my my mom and my dad and my family. It's like, I'm just trying to do what my parents did, like they can't blame me for personal betterment, right? We're trying to better ourselves and better our situation. They're the ones who teed it up for us, right? And but it wasn't their hatred. It was what was built up in my head. Dude, and I 100%. Do not, and it's like that whole the Asian guilt. Right? If you want to put a blanket statement, if you don't put a blanket statement on it,
that's what it is, man.
It could be framed that way, but at the same time, it's like like it's like the whole like Asian moms like playing mind games and things like that. It's like but it's like my mom, specifically, she's brilliant. And then like when you think about it, like even like our parents, like how were they able to bring us to this point? Like, I'm afraid, like what my like I have 2 kids, and and how like all these jobs that I've done, I was like, I can do this. I'm pretty confident. But you've seen my daughter and my son. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know, but I'm gonna roll with it. So
no, and if I can just follow that up real quick, because you literally just touched on exactly the point that I wanted to make, right? Like that fear, that because I felt that fear before too. I felt that fear a lot, and a lot of times it's like after reflection, right? And Chris and I talk about this all the time too. It's like at the end of the day, they set the example for that. And then also on top of that, when you finally decided, they were like super supportive. So it's like that fear was just like, we created that ourselves.
And it's not fair for like parents like to be, it's like what's built up in our heads or perception of what they're gonna feel like. it's not fair for that blanket statement of that, you know, like the guilting, whatever, it's indirectly or directly what our parents did. But I don't think it's fair for, like, you know, our parents for setting us up to succeed, right? I can't speak for all parents, I can't, you know, but for my parents, you know, like setting up to succeed, whether they did it on purpose or not, right? They got their cards dealt, and they played it a certain way. And when they made those decisions, my perception of it in my head, it's like, oh man, how are they going to think of this? They're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to do this. But that's in my head, that's what's built up. It's not a reflection of them.
Yeah,
you know,
I love that.
And it's not fair. Again, let me reiterate, it's not fair for the parents to you know, they know I'm joking, you know, but but it's like, it's not fair for, like, you know, the whole Asian guilt thing. But it's just funny, right? It's but yeah, it's the pressures, you know, like the pressures, like, especially for 20-year-old kids, it's tough. It's rough out there.
Yeah, man. No, I'm glad that you're able to explain the distinction, that you brought that up, David. But I think, I mean, what you did, I think, beautifully was that you related this change in your life to the change that they made for the family, right? Like, it's not as drastic, I don't think. And I think you can admit that as well, where, like, you're going to a different country and we don't have the same resources. They didn't have the same resources back then, where they can't like look up what that place looks like before they go there. You know what I mean? But it's like still similar, where it's still a big change. You make a decision when your children are still young that's going to impact their lives, you know, and as well as your wife and her figuring out what life is going to be out there for her. So I think you relating both big events in your lives was kind of key for that. I mean, is that how they kind of responded well to it, you said?
Yeah. Again, yes. Like, everything you said was true, but it always circled back is, you know, I like probability, I like statistics, and I like and that's why it always came back to, is this a clear choice? I like, you know, like, is it 50-50? That's kind of scary still. Is it, you know, like, you know, like 70-30, where it's going to be a better choice for my family? Okay, I can live with those odds, you know, like, I'd rather have a 90, you know. But it's like, for Philippines, in my head, but I don't, you know, they answered like, I think they gave a general answer, you know, when I did, or they did like the normal, you know, like explanations, or maybe I just kept on talking while they didn't answer, right? But you know, like, they raised me, so it's like, but was it a clear decision that it's going to be better? It always circled back to that, right? That's the root. To me, that was a root question, and nobody's going to know, right? And we might still be in this honeymoon phase, and, you know, living here, but I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to try my best. So,
yo, I like what you like, because what you just described, I feel like I've started to try and actively and intentionally do this too. You know, like, they describe it as being like outcome focused, right? And you make decisions based on the outcome that you want. And you ask, so I, like, for me, I've like asked myself this decision constantly, like, is what I'm about to do going to serve the goal that I'm trying to get to, right? And I feel like you like went through that process for this like huge change, you know? And what was that, making that decision, right? That outcome based decision. Like, how did your wife react?
she was super supportive, you know.
Again, right?
Yeah, and you know, I'm very thankful that I have a supportive wife. Like, but at the same time, we play off each other. We're like, you know, like, our goal as, you know, like, husband and wife, we want to be good teammates, collaborate, you know what I mean? We collaborate and talk things through logically, you know. Of course, the emotions are going to be there, but we don't want to be robots. But at the same time, it's kind of talk things through. It was kind of sketchy at first, you know, like, as far as like, I was like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do, right? If this actually happens, this pans out. And let me frame this a certain way, where it's I have these two jobs, like, you know, like, again, let me circle back into good life in San Diego. You know, I I would be lying if I said I had a really good life prior to this. And then this email comes in from a deputy design director and saying, "Oh, we have positions opening. Are you willing to? Are you interested in the position?" I'm like, "Am I?" Like, but I've always, yeah, I've always been like kidding around with it, especially at that age, and the itch part, right? Like I see, everybody goes through, like, even though you're happy, with the position, you see people reaching out and things like that. I've seen like LA Times and like different magazines, different and then New York Times. I'm like, would I do it for New York Times? Would I do it for LA Times? I said, I don't want to move to LA, but I thought that was a natural progression. Or if I get an itch, I thought that's a cool place. They're up, like very like the journalism, the presentation, top notch. And then New York Times, Washington Post. That happened. Let me circle back to like when they emailed, and then I said, maybe let me like if things go right, like I had to read my emails back. I said, yeah, let me I'm interested. Let me hear what you have to offer and things like that. Of course, everyone there, like a lot of brilliant people. And the email comes in, and I showed Janice so I framed it, I framed it where, like, okay, now there's a T-ball. Do you, like, someone set it up for you? What are you going to do with it? You're going to walk away from it, see how far you can hit it, or just tap it and see what happens. But but like the part where it's like the wife comes in, right? I say in my head, right? I have weird scenarios in my head. So I go back to Janice, my wife. I said, oh, I got this email. Both of us eyes big. And then so that was the go, like the green light to say, hit the ball as hard as you can. But it's it wouldn't be fair to say that decision is not like 50-50, right? I have to get the full sign off because that's her life too. Her family's here. Her family was there, and she had a lot of things going on too. But she understood this is the sorry to like be so journalistic. There's 3 like history of records. It's LA Times, Washington Post, and the New York Times. And like being one of those 3, it's like it's the peak as far as like as far as presentation, and things like storytelling. And Janice know this because I'm a big nerd. I tell her, like, this is a good opportunity, and then it's like, we'll see if they say that. We'll see. And then that's when we made a list of saying, okay, if this meets this, if this meets this, if this meets this. There's a lot of checklists. But first, the sign off from the wife, and like the sign off from the teammate saying, I'm with you, and she's totally supportive, still supportive, and very. I got a good. I'm like Shaq, she's Kobe, so
That's nice of you to give her Mamba. That was nice of you.
I know, but I'm compared to her, I'm like Shaq. I'm kidding. No.
Oh man, no, I love that. I love that story, man, because I think I guess someone the company reached out to you. That's huge. They sent you an email. I like to relate that to people who are very active on LinkedIn, and they get that recruiter who kind of slides in the DMs, or whoever a company asks if you're interested in this opportunity. And a lot of times, and often, is the same situation as you. I'm good right now. I have a good job. I'm not really looking, right? But then you're like, well, there's this T-ball that's set for me, an opportunity that's waiting. What do I do with that? Do I just say, no, thank you? I am, I'm cool where I'm at right now. Are you really absolutely 100% cool? Like, this is it? I mean, for me, I would highly recommend everybody else to do exactly what you did. And that's make a list of all the things that this company
itemize.
Exactly. Everything. If it checks off, then this might be the opportunity of a lifetime. Right.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to like add to what you said, like there's that, like, you don't want to ever forget, like, yes, you're completely right. It's like as far as the business side of it, but your personal side of it too. It's I don't believe like the age part. It's different. As if we're gonna talk about if we want to emphasize changes, like if it was just me and Janice, right? Like, oh, guaranteed we're gonna go. But we got two little people that's following us everywhere, asking us for stuff. So, it's that variable by itself is exponential, right? It's so it's like if you're gonna give that advice to people, right? Don't forget the personal side of it. The business side, guaranteed, right? And if it's right for, I'm people have like we have coworkers that's from like Spain, from different parts of the world.
Oh, wow.
They come out here with kids, and it's possible. But like that, like what you said, like the itemizing, listing things down. But you gotta put an extra like ledger for your like family and kids.
Yeah,
I'm a big family person, so
for sure. I mean, do you have a follow question, David?
No, go ahead, man.
I want to like give it. I think because we're talking about your position here at the Washington Post. Like, can you talk about a little bit more of your day to day and what you do there? Because we have an idea you work there, but I want the audience to know what you do. And kind of like, I mean, we have a Filipino American who's in this seat who has made it to the Washington Post. I want you to kind of
cool.
shine your light, man.
It's I thought I heard that wrong. It's the Washington Post is everything that I kind of imagined, which is weird. Very intimidating as far as like, the talent. Usually, I like analogies and reframing things, right? Framing things. It's kind of like, like let's go back to sports. Like I'm playing at the like LA Fitness, and I'm like crossing people up, like like getting buckets, and then you're like, okay, go to another league, going to another one, and then there's like D1 players. You're like, are you as good as these people? And then it feels like I'm in NBA now. Like what am I doing here? So it's like but that's the part where like the imposter syndrome. I don't want to say I do have it or if I don't, but it's like but then again I look at people and I look at the other talents, like I could do what they do. So I'm confident when I'm there. So I'm not like but at the same time it's like, is it my ambition? But I've only been there for 5 months. But my day-to-day, I work on the print side, also the web. Basically, the department is presentation, anything that's visual, anything that's designed, and my specific role is for in the newsroom, and there's newsroom designers that entails like A1, Metro, Enterprise, Sports, and I do a lot of sports, and that was kind of my background, sports design, and that's kind of like as far as like the daily, we work on the print side, and then that translates, or it goes backwards now, especially this time, this day and age where it's digital first, and then it goes to print. But sorry to go in a weird circle here, but the day-to-day, it's like hard to explain because it's one day I'm thinking how to present like the Super Bowl, present March Madness, present those type of
Wow.
But that's kind of like minimizing the impact of it, because you're hiring illustrators, you're hiring like illustrators, and you're designing these things, you're trying to find a team to help present this. I've been through a lot of or few big meetings, big brainstorms with tons of editors. Hard to explain if you're not in the industry too. I get like kind of starstruck as far if you lead, if not to mention any like big reporters, big columnists. Like I've worked with a few or a lot of them from LA Times, San Diego Union-Tribune, and Washington Post. And one of this is recent too, and it's like they left the visuals to me saying, "Oh, you're the professional. You're the professional. We'll let you handle this." Usually for design, that's kind of unheard of. right? You're like, our presentation, right? They want, in video, like they want Final Cut, they want but for them to say like, oh, you're the professional at this, and these are like understatement, like not regular reporter, they're like huge writers. It was just like, okay, that's why I moved, that's why I made the move professionally. And
nice. Wow.
and then that's day to day. But the profession, like, sorry, I'm gonna also fragment this onto the personal side, right? Today, like we got to go to the monuments, like driving around. We got walking around with the kids and just being there. It's still surreal, like this is our it feels like we always say this, Janice and I, it doesn't feel like we need a vacation, because it feels like, we're living in a vacation. Like if we do go to like certain things, that feels like, like if we go home, that's going to feel like home, right? It's going to feel like, but our lives feel like a vacation. And, but at the same time, there's still work. She works, but there's nothing we can complain about.
Hey, that's awesome. I don't want to take up more of your time, but like I want to also just kind of maybe use that framework, if you will, like the business side and then the personal side, for because there's people listening to this conversation, right? And like, if you could give advice to someone that's listening about the changes that have occurred to you on the business side and on the personal side, right? That wanted to, or that maybe are thinking about doing this, or maybe even not even just thinking, but hesitating on doing something that you've done, like on the business side and on the personal side, what advice would you give them to maybe walk a similar path that you've done?
In class, and I'll pretend I'm in Palomar again. I used to tell my students, I told them like same thing. I grew up in the Philippines, got here, I took ESL, and I was able to be staff photographer. I was able to photograph the NFL, MLB, and it feels like I've taken photos of all the of all CEOs all around San Diego. Was a staff photographer, and it feels like anybody can do it. I tell this to my friends too, like there are way more creative people than me, and I'm okay with that. It's just a matter of explaining yourself, and also communicating with people, the human, like, the human part of it. You have to learn how to connect with people and explain your vision, and kind of and it feels like a lot of people can do it. Anybody can, not everybody can do it, but if you're willing to make an effort and really just put yourself out there and not be afraid of the consequences, it'll be okay, right? If you get it or not, right? And if we're focusing on the migration from Philippines to here, I had a friend who's from the UK, recently asked, is this the American dream, right? And that's because we're talking about, like, Philippines, like Spain, different another couple different friends, for that's a little bit more international. And if this is the American dream, I would say I would be lying if it doesn't feel like it, right? It feels like my parents set it up for us to do to live here, to go to school here, to blend in, to mesh, to learn, and this is the American dream, kind of. And how can I phrase this right? The advice I gave to students, is the efforts that you put into a specific project, it'll show. The people who are talented, they probably can skate by, but imagine if you're talented and you have the effort, right? So it's kind of like, are you lucky? But the lucky people are ready when the opportunity presents itself. So, does that make sense?
Yeah,
I could be making all this stuff up. I'm telling
you. It's funny. It's things that I think Dave and I have said also on the podcast in the past and other guests. It's recurring themes. It makes a lot of sense. Great advice again from you.
You know what? Like this year, and I'm compared to like a lot of friends, family. I'm pretty conservative. I'm quiet. You know what I mean? But I have to try to make it out there to be bold, right? You have to be bold too. You kind of have to put yourself out there. A lot of people are scared. But imagine like a talent wasted. That's but you kind of have to be bold. You have to believe in yourself. I don't sometimes like that's why it's like the whole imposter syndrome too. It's like I believe in myself, like I believe in myself, but that took a lot of like self-reflection and things like that, and the whole like pressures and how people perceive you or how you think people perceive you. How do you get over that, right? Especially in our like culture, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's but you got to get over that and kind of just laugh it off, and but it's funny when you think about it now, like when you're in 20s, like it's fuel.
I think you have like this really like good skill of understanding your potential. You know what I mean? I think I think you do, because that's the part of the itch thing, is that you your potential. Like you said, is it going to be wasted talent? Is it going to be wasted talent? You know what I mean? So I think because not everybody has that, and it's a skill. I think I don't think it's just something that maybe you figured out when you're younger or growing up. But
it's that feeling before like you go into a game. You're like that anxious. I had to like one time I had to still ask Jen, is like, what does anxious feel like? Like kind of like. I don't know if I'm anxious. I don't know if like driven. I don't know if I'm ambitious, but it feels like, might as well, like, I don't know. I just feel like we have the opportunities, regardless of any like, like it's hard. Don't get me wrong. Like getting to the Washington Post from our, if you can also add this to the part, right, where it's like, it's not going to be easy. It's never going to be easy. I tell this to my family. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? But it's kind of the perseverance, like you have to be persistent, and it's hard. It's super hard. People think it's easy for some people, but you don't know what they're going through, But it was. If I minimalize this, and to make it seem easy. It was pretty hard. I had to make sacrifices and things like that, but I don't know if that made sense.
It did. And it seems like it's worth it.
Yeah. I think even if I do get fired, next week, I think it'll still be worth it. And I don't think, I don't know. I feel confident that, it'll work out.
I mean, when you say like, if I get fired next week, I think it's still worth it. Because I mean, like, it's like you compared it to the league, right? Like, I made it to the league, even if I get cut. Like, I just said I made it to the freaking league, and that's my legacy. You know what I mean? That's how I see it as.
And like with friends, like, how do you put things in perspective who aren't into like news or into journalism, right? I'm just that's the part where like I'm assuming what the Washington Post is. A lot of people do. But like some people don't, and people don't understand the gravity of it, right? Of the Post and what they've done and the legacy behind it, and to think that I'm part of this team, and it's just to me it's like I'm not gonna like God gave this to me, and I'm gonna try my best, right?
Yeah.
But without sacrificing the goal of my family, for the betterment of my family.
Yeah.
Love that. I love that.
But as we end every other podcast, if anybody's interested in getting in touch with you or want to learn more about you, how can they get in touch with you?
My work email is michael.domine@washpost.com. That's michael.domine@washpost.com. I'll probably have to disclaim that I'm doing a podcast, but I'm okay with it.
Okay. Oh man,
Keep that
That's
in the
awesome.
edit.